You don't have to disappear.
Welcome back. I'm here again with Candace Czarny, author of First Cause. Over this series, we've talked about anger that shows up for no reason, about sovereignty, choosing who you are no matter what's happening around you, and last time, about finding meaning when the roles of a lifetime fall away. Today we turn to the hardest one, and the one that touches almost everyone eventually, especially later in life: grief. The loss of someone we love. Candace, thank you for being willing to go here.
Thank you. And I want to say gently before we begin, if you're carrying a loss right now, I'm glad you're here. Take this at whatever pace you need.
Grief is something you've said is deeply underreported. People carry it quietly. What are you seeing, especially with older adults?
It's everywhere, and it's carried in silence. Especially later in life, the losses start to stack. A spouse, a brother or sister, friends you've had for 50 years. And there's a specific weight that doesn't lift. Crying at unexpected moments. Trouble imagining the future. The sense that a whole version of your life is simply gone. And most people grieve it alone because they've been told they should be over it by now. I want to say clearly, there is no should be over it.
You're careful to say you're not here to fix grief or rush it. So what is the part you can help with?
That's right. Grief is not a problem to solve. If you've lost someone who mattered, that weight is real and it deserves its space. What I want to talk about is different. It's the way grief can cut you off from yourself, because there are really two things happening in grief. The first is the loss itself, the person, the life you had. That part is supposed to hurt, and no technique should ever touch it. But there's a second thing, and this is the one almost nobody names. Grief doesn't just hurt, it disconnects. It can pull you so far out of yourself that you lose the person underneath the loss.
So you end up carrying two weights at once: the loss and being cut off from yourself while you carry it.
Exactly. And that second weight is the one that makes grief feel bottomless, because a self that's still present can grieve and still remain a self. But a self that's been severed from its own center has nothing solid to grieve from. You're not just mourning what you lost, you're mourning from a place where you've also lost you.
There's a line in your work I keep thinking about, that grief is actually telling us something. What does grief tell us?
Grief tells you one thing very clearly. Something real mattered. That's what grief is. It's love with nowhere to go. So the grief is not the enemy. The grief is the measure of how much that person, that life, genuinely mattered to you. And here's the crucial distinction. Grief that's resisted becomes the weight you carry indefinitely. Grief that's allowed to move through you becomes the space where something new becomes possible.
That's a big idea. Resisted grief versus grief that moves through. How do you tell the difference?
Your body will tell you. Resisted grief feels like bracing. The jaw tightens, the shoulders rise, the chest collapses inward around it. Grief that's moving feels different. Even in the pain, there's a kind of opening. The chest expands around it instead of clamping down. The breath gets deeper, not shorter. One is stuck, one is flowing, and the culture taught us to do the stuck one, to move on, to not dwell, to hold it together, which leaves whole generations carrying losses they were never allowed to actually feel. And unfelt grief doesn't disappear, it just goes quietly heavy.
So this is where First Cause comes in. How does it help someone stay themselves inside the grief?
There's a moment, even in grief, even in the weight, where you can be present and still yourself, not over the loss, not past it, just present with it, as yourself instead of drowned by it. I call that moment first cause, the moment before the grief pulls you completely under. And the goal was never to stop grieving. The goal is to not lose yourself inside the grief, to carry the loss without being severed from the person who has to carry it. There's a difference between grieving as yourself and being erased by grief. First cause is the return to being yourself, even here.
Some people are afraid that if they come back to themselves, if they feel okay again, it means they're letting the person go. What do you say to that?
I understand that fear completely. The fear that staying underwater is a form of loyalty, that to feel like yourself again would be a betrayal. But I want to gently turn it over. Being erased by grief does not honor what you lost. It just adds a second loss on top of the first. Now the world is missing them. and missing you too. The person you lost did not love a drowning version of you. They loved you, present, whole. Returning to that self is not leaving them behind. It's the opposite. It's carrying them in the one place they can actually be carried, in a heart that's present enough to hold them.
What does it look like in practice to grieve this way, to carry it without disappearing?
It starts small. One moment where the grief is there, but it doesn't erase you. 60 seconds of being present underneath the weight. You're still there. And from that place, you let the grief actually move. You feel it instead of bracing against it. You let it be as big as it is. And over time, not on anyone's schedule, the return becomes more available than the drowning. The grief is still yours, it may always be, but it stops taking the whole of you. You can imagine a future again, not because you stopped loving what you lost, because you're present enough to see one.
Before we close, what do you want to say to the person listening who lost someone and feels like they'll never be themselves again?
I want you to hear that you don't have to get over anything. You just don't have to disappear. You get to keep the love and keep yourself at the same time. The grief is proof that something real mattered. Carry it as yourself, not as someone who vanished along with them. And please, if the weight is heavy, lean on the people and the support around you. You are not meant to carry this alone. When you're ready, you can find out where you stand right now. Find out the first cause of your problem. It may not be what you think. Take the free assessment of the 5 dimensions of your inner life. 5 minutes, completely free, no email required. consciousnesstrack.app/quiz. I'm Candace. Thank you for spending this time with me. Grief tests everything we've talked about in this series. If this reached you, the other conversations will too. Anger, sovereignty, finding meaning again. Start wherever you need to. You can watch right here. I'll see you there.